Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, and all of our guests today, including Landon Ferraro, to talk about Abbotsford, standing by. Brought to you by our inbox sponsor, Delaney's OK Tire in Langley and Aldergrove. Abbotsford Canucks tonight play Game 4 of the Calder Cup Final against the Charlotte Checkers in Abbotsford. Of course, Abbotsford coming off the big 6-1 win in Game 3. Landon Ferraro has been doing color analysis for Abbotsford Canuck games on 650 alongside our friend Brandon Astle. And Landon joins us now. Landon, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing really good, guys. How you doing?
Good, very well. The Abbotsford Canucks are doing well right now as well. Can you put into words how impressed you are with what they're up to?
Honestly, this whole run has been, I mean, for me, a ton of fun to be able to be around, and the guys have done such a good job of just kind of sticking with it, sticking to how their team plays, and what that is using all four lines, just rolling through, and everyone has a part to do with it. And of course, Shelovs has been unbelievable through this run, especially in the finals here. So, I mean, the thing I've probably been the most impressed with is just stealing Manuel Holtra's word of resilient. Like, these guys, it doesn't matter what position they get in. The first two games on the road were really tough for them, and they found a way to get the split. And that's kind of how this team is rolled. Like, they don't quit, and it's been really impressive to watch.
Landon, that line of Sasson, Karlsson, and Baines, boy, were they hopping and popping the other night. I think they combined for 9 points. What makes them so effective?
Well, I mean, looking at it right off the hop, like, you have Sasson that brings all the speed.
Yep.
Baines is, a really good playmaker. He makes some really nice plays, especially under pressure. He doesn't just throw it away. He's able to hold on to it for an extra second, make sure that, he gets a defender, he baits him in, and then he can hit that hole. And then Karlsson, who, he had a tough, game 6 of the conference final and first two games of the final. Like, he just didn't seem to be himself. He looked a little tired. But then, come last game, they get back home. They get in front of a crowd in Abbotsford, which was unbelievable. They were so loud. The excitement in the room or in the rink was great, and you could see the guys feed off it. And Karlsson, who, Abbotsford's going to need him to be that in this series, showed up and made a couple really big plays to get them back in, and then also to take a lead. So, I mean, those three led the way, but again, like, through the entire lineup, it's been pretty impressive how they've all been able to chip in and have their part.
Got to ask you about Lekaramaki. He was healthy scratch for 5 straight. He's never had a season this long, Landon, before, with the physicality, the games played, the travel. He's never had that in Sweden before. He gets back in the lineup last game. I mean, just what are your overall views of him so far in the playoffs?
I mean, well, starting with last game, like, I think he came in and did a really good job. Like, the thing with me watching him through this run, it's not that he doesn't see the play or see what the right play or what needs to happen. Like, he's doing all the right things. He makes the right reads. We saw it in Vancouver too. Even when he doesn't have the puck, he understands angles, and he's got great hand-eye. He knocks down a ton of passes, and he did that in Game 3 the other night as well. But for him, it comes down to strength, and like the things you just highlighted, like, those are big obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my first year moving from the Western League to the American League and how big of a jump that was, but we were still playing the same number of games. It's just when you go from playing against, essentially kids to men, it's a big difference. But you add in extra games, this long playoff run, so that's, they've added another 19 games on top of their
Yeah.
regular season schedule. And then, honestly, the biggest one that I can't overplay enough is the travel.
Yeah.
Getting to play in Europe, you're in your own bed the majority of nights, even after road games, you're right back. Like everything's a lot closer. So now he comes to Abbotsford, everything's a flight.
Yeah.
Everything is, once you get there, then you're bussing around. Like it is really hard on your body, and it takes a lot to learn how to adapt and start to, be able to handle that, even better. But, he gets back in. His first shift, he makes a really nice poise play inside his blue line to feed a rush. And then his next shift, he gets one shot blocked. He gets another one put on. Like he got himself involved. He had a really good hit on a forecheck later in the game. Like you can see where his game is. Again, it's just he's a young player that he needs some strength, and that's going to be the biggest thing for him. But again, I think it was a really good showing, especially after being off for, about 15 days.
You know, you talk about the coaching. A lot of these guys played last couple of years in Abbotsford, but this coach has taken them very far. What about the job that Manny's done?
He's done an unbelievable job. And, the thing that I like to see so much watching the games from up top is, I was lucky enough, towards the end of Manny's career, mine just starting out, we were both in Vancouver and, he was in the gym. I'd be in, seeing how he trained. I was getting to go on the ice with him and watching the guys play now in Abbotsford, like they play a lot like what he did. And that's, maximum effort all over the ice. Even when there's a turnover, the second effort is there. Like the first goal, Blaze power play goal, like all that comes from Baines not giving up on a turnover and then getting himself into a battle, tying up the Charlotte player and giving Karlsson time to get in there and grab the puck and make a beautiful backhand pass. But again, it all comes from the work of as soon as you lost the puck, I'm not going to be okay with it just getting sent down the ice. I'm going to stop it right here. And how he's got the guys to buy in, and you can just see how close that group is together. Like no one's left alone. Being on the road with them now, going down to Charlotte and seeing how tight the group is and how much they enjoy being around each other. Like that's all coming from Manny and his coaching staff. They respect each other. They have open lines of communication, but he's also very direct in what he wants. And I think especially players now, like we always hear how they want to be part of the conversation and all that, but at the end of the day, the coach is still in charge, and what he says, like unless he has the respect of the room, it's not going to work. But for him, he's out there battling in practice after with the scratches. Like he loves getting in the two-on-two game. Like guys
Yeah.
see all of that. They see that he's all in with them, and he's got them playing to a really high pace, but the compete level is the part that I think he's brought and instilled in the most of the players, which for any young player in an organization, like that's the hardest part to get to is seeing how much harder it is to get things accomplished at this level.
Landon, one player. Is there one player on the Canucks that you feel is most likely to have a significant impact with Vancouver next season?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think there's a couple of them to be honest, and it's obviously it'll really depend what happens in free agency for the Canucks and what they're able to do signing players, and then of course with trades is how they've
Yep.
really haven't been shy about saying like that's probably the way things are going to have to get moved around for the Canucks to fix their roster a bit, but like Max Sasson and his speed and his compete on the puck looks like a player that can jump into the NHL next year and have a really solid role. Karlsson, of course, I said he had the three off games ending the conference final and starting this one, but if you look through, I mean, he's now leading the American League in playoff points. He's leading
Yep.
them in goals. And it's generally in the later part of the series that he really kind of buckles down and finds a way to be a massive contributor. Is he going to jump right in and be a contributor point
Yep.
wise in Vancouver? I think he started to figure it out towards the end of the season a little bit more of, he's so good in front of the net and being able to start using some of his attributes. Like those two players to
Yep.
me look like guys that can jump in right away and get moving. Obviously, you start to look on the back end and Mancini's back there and he's played really well. The first two games in Charlotte, like Charlotte plays just like Florida, just without a bit of the size,
Hmm.
but they're heavily aggressive, especially in the offensive zone. everyone's getting involved. When a puck gets ripped around, the D are coming in extremely fast, and they're really struggling in games 1 and 2 to break out. And that D core, and Mancini being one of them, of course, they kind of figured out that, if we don't try and move it right away, if we get skating and break the first forechecker ourselves, all of a sudden everything starts to open up. And Mancini grabbed the puck a few times last game, and with his first two strides, like the way that he can separate himself from players on the forecheck and then turning into the back check, he just keeps pulling away. Like that type of skating is something that any team can really use, and he's got the size to go with it. I think his offense will keep growing with him as he does, but right away, just seeing him being able to use his strength and skating to get himself some ice, and not only that, but then it opens up the forwards as well, and he can deliver the puck and keep moving up as well. Like he's had a really good showing so far.
I'm having a hard time not focusing on that beautiful Boston Bruins uniform in behind you, Landon. Do you have a jersey from every team you play for?
I do. The only one I don't have is my game worn from Detroit. I don't know where that went. I'm sure someone bought it for about $25 somewhere, but haven't been able to track that one down.
Yeah.
But those are my two favorites right there, especially the Canada one.
It'll show up online one day. This has been great, Landon.
Yeah.
Enjoy listening to you on 650. Thanks so much for this.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
You bet.